started my periods, I think, I'm not sure if it was in junior school or senior. Going to school, I was struggling, especially morning times,
And is this because of pain? Like, what are you
Yes.
experiencing?
I'm experiencing pain and a lot of weakness on my lower body. It's a struggle to even walk to the bathroom.
It's a 28-day cycle, right?
And I feel like I am normal 10 days a month. You and I can't have a conversation because after that, I won't even remember. That's the kind of brain fog that I go through. I process very slowly. It's not about me anymore because now I've seen how my partner now responds to very little things. Sometimes I'll be feeling something more baking. About, hey, sound okay, pain. And that time, I think when he said that, I sobbed.
Oh,
So much. It's like, what have I turned this person into? Now that's when I look back and think of.
In our latest episode, Fifi shares her journey of struggling with debilitating period pain, brain fog, and muscle weakness that completely disrupted her life. She was eventually diagnosed with adenomyosis, a condition where the lining of the womb or uterus grows into the muscle wall of the womb. Now, Fifi opens up about the challenges of living with a chronic condition, as well as her decision to create awareness about her diagnosis. Now, let's join her on this courageous journey. Fifi, thank you so much for doing this, really, for, taking this moment to have a conversation here on GaonaLive Conversations to create awareness about this particular condition. But over and above that, to really just be vulnerable to share your journey living with this condition. So, I know this is something that I get a lot with people trying to pronounce endometriosis.
Yeah.
When you live with it, it just becomes like it rolls off your tongue, like so easily, right? But I understand the condition is adenomyosis and cousin endometriosis, right? Very related, but also, kind of different. But yeah, thank you for doing this. You don't owe us your story. This is an act of service to humanity and I appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you very much for having me as well.
Yeah. So I think before we even get to you being diagnosed, because I know how it is with these conditions, it takes a while before it's given a name, right? Yeah. I want to know what the struggle was like, even if there was a struggle, for that matter, right? So take us back to, your first encounter with a period, your first period. Yeah. What was that like? And also maybe before that, what did you know, as a girl growing up, menses and was there that conversation that you had with your parents? Because for a lot of us, because of the, sort of like stigma and taboo around subjects like that. So what was that like for you?
I don't know. It's like it just happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I started my periods, I think, I'm not sure if it was in junior school or senior, somewhere there. I just have a habit of shutting things out and remember less.
Okay.
Yeah, but the most vivid memory is when I was at senior school, and because just a brief background of how I grew up being raised by a single parent. I was bouncing back between my mom and my grandmother. Yeah, but the significant moment was when I was staying with my grandmother and I had my periods. So I was set down, kind of like inducted. And all those things. Well, I agreed to it, but I just didn't know that it was going to be too much. Looking at the fact that now the experience became different from others. Yes. And going to school, I was struggling, especially morning times, Yeah. Morning is always a struggle to wake up and sleeping as well. So ko sekolong be le gore anong I'm that girl e leng gore na ikgarilela, you know, I itsotsopanya, all those.
And is this because of pain? Like, what are you experiencing?
I'm experiencing pain and a lot of weakness on my lower body, especially when it comes to walking. But every single month, I would just dismiss that because I thought that was everybody else's experience. So I didn't talk about it.
I was going to ask you that, Jorge, you know, growing up and just observing, especially because it kind of says you were a late bloomer. Because there were people, I remember back in my day, there were people who started their periods, 5, 6, 7, right? I think I got mine when Kebalabo Form 1. So already, Sonali, perception of what it looks like or whether it's a cool thing. I know at some point for me, it was a cool thing. When am I going to get this? But also scary because like blood from where? So had you seen anything that looked like what you were experiencing before, or did periods look normal? How liba from, you know, what you had observed prior to you getting yours?
I think it just looked normal. Everybody just had a period pack in the the sanitary pads. That was the common thing. And it was what showed horomo period.
That's it.
That was it. Nothing else. Yeah.
And there you are when I know how it's like it's excruciating. It's an experience that's just debilitating. And you observe this. At that point, do you think there's anything wrong with you? Do you think this is odd? Kana, you would say.
Honestly, I didn't see anything wrong because I never, you know how you would have a headache and say, I'd never share. I'd never share because I thought it was normal. I'm bleeding and that has to come with pain. Yeah, that was it.
And with you had the conversation with your grandma after getting your first period. You know, observation mo go bone keng a ba le mo gore go na le mathata ngwana o ka re wa sokola kana yana like seng ke sephirisa like you're just literally keeping it to yourself and just soldiering on with this.
It was like ke sephirisa me. And I think also I don't know if back then parents were not observant. Yeah. Because I right now I would think if now your daughter starts her menses, you need to somehow observe how they spend that day, how they something. But no, there wasn't
the flow. You know what I mean?
Is it too heavy? Does it need more pads? All that, but there wasn't that kind of observation at all.
Now, at what point does it start being a major inconvenience for you?
I think now was straight after varsity. Yeah. Because even throughout the time that I was from school, I didn't really think this was an inconvenience. Even though sometimes I would exempt exams, because I have brain fog, all those things. I just didn't think that was an inconvenience up until now I had commitments. Growing up. Yeah.
Let's talk about that stage now, right? But also, you know, do you know, I remember growing up, right, with my painful periods and just how debilitating they were. To the ER with my mother. And one doctor at some point gave it a name and said it's called dysmenorrhea. There are people who have normal periods with slight pain, and there are people who have major pains, you know what I mean, or more pain than, you know, the average girl, and it's just called dysmenorrhea. So painkillers, you know, Panado, Omeprazole, or whatever the case may be, right? So, you know, are you coming across any kind of definition, you know, of what it is that you're going through, or like you're saying, business as usual?
Yeah, I think I was ignorant for too long.
Yeah.
Too long, so much that I also didn't really think it was something clinicking for a. So.
And what are you taking now, you know, to try and manage these bouts of, you know, discomfort or whatever you want to call it, because like you're saying, lower body, you react in a particular manner, brain fog, pain. Are you taking anything to manage this? Do you have any go-tos for that time of the month?
Because you just never know or, how the symptoms are going to be in a particular month. How sanzo akanya gore o tshwareletse, okay, o palelwa ke go tsamaya this month. You're waiting for the fact that, okay, since last month I was struggling to walk, I'm gonna deal with difficulty in walking. But then you just have like adenobelly. So you just,
and at that point you don't even know whether this is adenobelly.
True.
It's just mala di or whatever. Yeah.
And I literally have a wardrobe for my periods because it's like now I have to go on maternity wear so that I'm comfortable. And management, I'm going back and forth. Food, most of the time is food because I realized that is somehow an anti-inflammatory diet that helps. And I don't know how is it linked.
Yeah, but it helps.
Yeah.
You know what? We're going to get to that part. I think I was still just trying to unpack the days prior to you sort of now being conscious and aware of what it is that you're dealing with, right? So I want us to go back to post-tertiary, where that's when now like it kind of like really hits you that there's something wrong, right?
Yeah.
I want you to take me back to that era. What happened? What gets you to a point now where you're like,
yeah.
I
think it now starts with being around people who care much and who, not that my family didn't care, but there's just a way that, parents do express love. And those that are very observant, where somebody tells you, okay, friends, it's like close to 9 days, say hope. I think you should go see a doctor and go doctoring, and it's embarrassing because and you're experiencing pain, and then okay, it's like this was a thing. Why do you have to come to the hospital to or when it's something like that, and then you've been given Brufen, and then sometimes it doesn't work. And eventually, I don't know after how long, because like I'm saying, I was very, very ignorant about it. Even when I was told hormonal imbalance, I think the moment I walked out of the clinic, I forgot about it. Yeah. I forgot about it. It's like, okay, next month it's going to be something else. This is just my life. And I don't know if I remember the diagnosis that I had. Okay, maybe this is serious. It was when I was told that I have fibroids. Yeah. There were never indications of cysts. The fibroids, but they're manageable. Yeah. And still, I was ignorant.
You're really not changing your life or allowing this to,
And then life happened. Went to a particular doctor now. After 3 diagnoses, it was a trend now, something called adenomyosis. I remember that I was a Chinese man. He sat me down and he said, do you know this thing called adenomyosis? It's like, no, I don't know what that is, and I don't even know what it means. Ibile, what am I supposed to do after that? Because I don't know. I think it's like giving birth, they forget about it. So it's like I was like, okay, I forget about it. I'm so relieved. Life goes on. Yeah. And then after that diagnosis now, I realized maybe there was something wrong. Yeah. And I started to Google now. I started to go on the socials to check exactly what this is, but there was less information about it. And then I think, if you don't mind me just highlighting maybe your journey, I think that's when now you started to share. And then I realized, oh, this thing does exist. There's a community of people that you can relate with. Yeah, I think that was that time.
So, how is adenomyosis diagnosed? Was it something that this doctor is just looking at you and saying, hey, symptoms are leading in this direction? Or diagnose it with this? Or is there any kind of like medical, investigation that goes on for them to get to a point where they're like, okay, we think this is what it is?
Yeah, there is, but wabua, your symptoms, and then they start to jot down everything, start to link it with 1, 2, 3, but then diagnose ultrasound, mammogram, something like that. Yeah, I always forget this. Clinical terms, and that's just how it's diagnosed.
Okay.
Because on the scan it has to show how your uterus looks like, a normal uterus, and how different yours looks like. Yeah.
So okay, what you are, you've mentioned repeatedly is, okay, so you go through the bouts of discomfort, the 9-10 days or however long it is of discomfort, and then you forget about it, right? So at what point does it hit you and leave you shaken, right? At what point do you get shook by the fact that, oh my goodness, this is here and this is real?
Yeah.
If you've ever gotten to that point, because I'm assuming for you to get to a point where you start creating awareness, which is where you are right now, there has to be something that kind of like shifted, within you to get you to a point where you're like,
I think to be bedridden for so long, and it's a struggle to even walk to the bathroom. Yes, I think that's when it actually hit, and I realized that there's a point in my life where I am not the best, and I do not perform to my best ability, and and after that, some things are very special when you have them, like being able to walk, like being able to chew. Sometimes it gets worse.
You know what I think the question I should have asked, what are the actual symptoms that you live with now? You know what I mean? What is that experience like? Take me to, those 9 days of Fifi on her periods. What does it look like? And you mentioned, of course, that it changes. The thing about it is it morphs itself into something else, every month or, whatever, however long. But like, what does that season look like in your life?
Okay. It's like my it's a 28-day cycle, right? And I feel like I am normal 10 days a month, where I feel like I am the best self. I don't have any back pain. I don't have any slight aching in my body. And then after that, it's ovulation. Yeah, ovulation, I do have a little bit of discomfort, especially on my lower body. And then after that, now we're going to the menses, I get. Then I would have 2 days pre-period pains before the flow starts. Then I could feel, okay, yeah. It's like your system shuts down slowly but surely, and I get a little bit of fever, but in that moment, I can't wait for the flow to start. At least, you know what? I just have to surrender to it. And also issues of surrendering. It didn't because we want to be our best self. And when you struggle to surrender into the fact that you need to work on being better, it's like
That's deeper.
Yes. So I've learned.
So you need to surrender?
Yeah, you need to surrender that you are weak. And what exactly happens when I'm weak. And then, those 2 pre-period pains and then the pain starts with the flow, and that will be the third day. I used to have heavy periods, but ever since I'm managing them with oral contraceptive, go a thusa yaanong. So at least now I can deal with now my lower body being very weak, and knowing that I can't just rush and get a glass of water. It takes time, and that is shortness of breath. In some days, I'm panting. Yeah. And on those moments, I'll be having more pain on my left leg. I don't know what happens with the left leg. The third day is always worse. I think that's the time now.
Third day of the flow.
Third day of the flow. Yeah, that's the time that I get to be maybe hospitalized and sleep over just for them to observe, because that's in the medication. And at that time, you and I can't have a conversation, because after that, I won't even remember. That's the kind of brain fog that I go through. I process very slowly. And, also being a decision maker, running a business, I can't be there. And so I had to understand and be okay with the fact that I am not supposed to leave the house, because you would be there and you're acting like a weirdo, But people say, oh, Fifi today, and you always have to explain to people after that. And you change your pillow when you sleep. It's like now you use the mommy pillow. Because now I'm learning how to support my belly. Yeah. My belly hurts. And then the most shocking thing is my blood pressure is always high. I don't know why, but the doctor explained that it's because your body would be fighting a lot of pain, contractions and all that. So it's not like BP. It will be
it's just in that season, because the body is really, trying to fight for its for survival.
True. And it's like now your body wants a certain diet. Yeah. And for me, I crave a lot of morogo, those easy food. Yes. And I think that's about it. But after the period, the last day, now I get, I don't know if it's migraines or what. It's like withdrawal headache. It's a withdrawal headache. And I only got to understand that now my mind or my brain would be overworking to process the information that I have received in this week, what I have missed. Yes, what I have...
Trying to catch up with reality.
True. To catch up with reality. And also it's the reason why now I wear glasses. Because I used to know I can't see. I don't know what happens. So I had my lenses, period. It's okay, no, my sight is just blur. But now I'm full on glasses now because of adenomyosis.
It's like, I think I'm just shocked at how this thing affects you holistically. Yeah. Every area of your life is affected. You know what I mean? Your body. So it's not just the period pains. It's not just discomfort in the abdominal area. It's everything.
Yeah.
Literally from your mental to your physical to your emotional.
Yeah.
To your spiritual, I assume. And the body holistically gets affected. But I think if there's something I'm also curious about, you're talking about your lower body. What happens to the lower body? What do you experience? What is it what is the sensation that you're getting? This weakness. I think I just want to unpack that a little bit more.
Both. It's like it's like you can't feel the strength of your bones or something. What's supposed to support you. I always imagine. It's so funny. I always imagine. Bo mpopinyana ba rena ba bogologolo bo Jessica kore ka ha theleng ba rena ba lokolwa ka teng. I always feel like my body part o ka re lokolotse go beilwe hale. Yeah, it's like that.
Now, do you know anybody else who has adenomyosis? I think perhaps before I ask what I want to ask, I'm just wondering whether around you, right? Like not through the internet, not anywhere else, but around. Is there anybody else that you've come across who has adenomyosis?
Yes.
And are these common symptoms, right? Is this a similar experience that people with adenomyosis have, or is this unique to you? As in, does it manifest itself differently, in different people?
Most of the times the symptoms are similar. Yes. And one would say, I have adenomyosis. And yeah, most of the times it's similar. Yeah.
So in this experience that you've had, I want you to take me back to a point where, or a day, or a season, right, where you would say you literally hit rock bottom with this, right? A point where, because I have an experience. I remember I always talk about how I've got the scar. I'd broken my arm in a car accident, right? So post-surgery, I get my periods. But that night, this one particular night, I've taken something that has numbed this pain. But the whole night, this pain is debilitating, excruciating. I'm hospitalized. For me, that gave me context of how bad this pain is. Because I'm sitting there thinking, how is it that a broken bone? I have a metal plate, screws, and this was fresh. That day I'd had the surgery. I'm on meds. This pain is gone. But this wasn't gone. So for me, it's a day that sticks out. Like every day, anytime I get endometriosis and just how bad it can get, I think of that particular day. So I really just, is there any kind of day that you can reference that like kind of gave you that, this is the pits, guys. Any moment, any season, any, cycle, that you can reflect on that?
Yeah, I think I have two. One is psychological. I realized that this thing does cloud your mind. It erases everything. I think ira COVID, you know how we would go and register, and I think I was with my little cousin, and we've gone to, I think, collect food items. So register. What I did, because ke ne nampolelela ke tsere maina a motho o registerileng before me ke kopolla ke kopolla hela ke kwala sengwe le sengwe hela ka motho a witsere. And then ha tsena yana register, that's when she noticed that her periods are near, because now they know gore a tsamaile tlhaloganyo. And she feels like, are you sure you're going to be able to drive us home? Clearly. Because I get lost most of the time. It's like I have to be, I don't know if it's inducted through.
Just some kind of rehabilitation.
Ya gore okay nya me wa dronyana. This is what you do daily. Just that little catch up. That's the psychological one. And mo go buang gape, I think there was a time I went to the bathroom and I could sort of make a scratch again. I was bleeding. And I remember my partner telling me, Naro utamadi. And I just wiped it and slept. No. After a few days, and I'm like, what happened to my hand? It's like, you injured yourself, you came to bed bleeding, and I asked you, you just didn't, I did not recall. And like, the rest of the pain is numb. It's like a back pain. But at that time, I can't feel anything except for this pain. Yes. The only time I know that, okay, now the periods are done, it's now when I start to feel my back pain. It's now when I start to feel maybe an injury. But okay, no. I think I don't think I would even feel.
I actually know people who have burns in their lower abdomen. It's because udirisa hot water bottle.
True.
Because the pain underneath, I'll just call it underneath, is worse than pain. Afterwards. So I think literally that's really what
it's literally the same.
Now, let's talk about, you've taken me there because you're talking about your cousin, being able to figure out, okay, this is what it means. So family, just your support system, right?
Yeah.
Family, friends, relationships, just the people close to you, right?
Yeah.
How has your living with, adenomyosis affected how you relate with the people around you, how they relate with you? How has that been?
I think with family, because I don't know, because I didn't share when it first started, and when I was still under my parents' roof, they didn't get it. And now it's like everything changed when I was now by myself. And the only experience that maybe my mom or aunties or whoever has, it's the fact that, okay, it could be it. But they have never experienced me in that moment to see that, okay, because I think with that one also, I'm still struggling to show that other side of me. I ran away because I don't want to be seen in that. And for quite some time, I stayed with my little brother, and I don't know how he managed through that. And sometimes you feel for those people, because he would prepare food, and just put everything mo kgorong. I open the door and just get my food and kokota, because also he's a boy child. I can't.
There's that element there. But he's a boy, you're a girl. Yeah.
And what he knows, me, she has to eat because she takes a lot of medication. And also with cousins, I don't have girl siblings. So my girl cousins ke bone bonnake and bonkgonne, and ke bone ba ileng gore they see everything. They see everything, and it has really affected them. And also others had put them in positions where they had to be more than who they are. I remember there's a time I got my little cousin drive. I said, because I collapsed. At that time I was still staying Kotlokeng, and I don't know how she knew her clinic go Kotlokeng, and
desperate times calling for desperate measures.
Yes, she had to act up, and I really appreciate those moments. Yes.
Have you ever felt judged for, this experience? You know what I mean? For being somebody who, you have these kind of you know, I don't know what to call them, encounters, but like it's this experience in have you felt judged? Have you felt, you know, like, hey, oh sitete, oh matepe, oh attention seeker, you know?
Not much, because I think I just mastered a way of, you know, where you just disappear. I'm the disappearing girl.
You don't want to bother people.
Yeah, I just disappear and inconvenience people. I am that girl who, I think, maybe a little bit of judgment, because people would just, we make plans and then I don't show up and I don't communicate. And then after that, it's very hard to explain to people what was going on, because now you can only, I don't know. It's best to explain pain when you are feeling it.
Of course.
Yeah. And also to tell people that I was not able to do this because nekelemo piroding. But no.
You know?
No. Period ke yone ke ira gore motho a ska letsa motho. Ke yone ke ira gore motho a ska araba mogala. Something like that.
Yeah. And from a, you know, relationshiping, right? Now, you know, it's because we all, you know, need companionship, right? I think that's really just how we're wired. You know, you want to have somebody, you know, how has it been navigating, you know, that space? Because I'm assuming you are able to stay away from family, like you're saying, you know, to try and protect them from seeing this. But normally with that person, how in a relationship, that's the one person who really just sees it all. That's where you really need to let your guard down, right? They get to see it all. You mentioned earlier that your partner says, you're bleeding. How is it that navigating that space? What has it been like?
I think for so long, I used the trick of disappearing for so long.
So I ghost away.
You know, I'm that girl. And you can imagine when the relationship is still new.
Yeah.
And also, I didn't think that this menstrual health could be the kind of conversation that you sit somebody down and say, I struggle with this. I just didn't know. Yeah. Up until, you know, maybe that person experiences you. Okay, no, she's somehow weird, you know? And it's been a challenging one, because it needs a partner who's very observant, also who's very empathetic, sympathetic as well, and not judgmental, because most of the time I would judge, you know, how do you get to sleep the whole week or run a business? Now you force yourself to be busy. Busy because how about to gonna kare wa judge how atwala mo botshelong. You postpone interviews, presentations, you postpone a lot of very important opportunities. Yes. I think that space has been very difficult. Only that now I realize that it's not about me anymore, because now I've seen how my partner now responds to very little things. You know, sometimes I'll be feeling something more baking. I've had a sound of pain.
Oh,
yeah. Because I'm that girl when I ling big ache and I highlight
pain.
Oh, wow. You know? Yeah. And that time, I think when he said that, I sobbed. Oh. So much. It's like, what have I what have I turned this person into? Now that's when I look back and think of,
I'm sorry. I'm crying with you. There you go. I'm so sorry, Fifi. I'm so sorry. 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 I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, my girl. You okay? I think, the heaviest part about dealing with these kind of life experiences is, the just how deep the impact is, right? And normally with a condition that isn't physically visible, we take it for granted. We take the depth of the impact for granted, you know what I mean? And I think this is really what I'm getting. And I think the reason why I'm sobbing with you, over just the fact that, over and above the fact that, of course, I'm empathizing, is the fact that I can also relate. Yeah. You're carrying this every day and it affects you in a way that is very difficult to sometimes even articulate, very difficult for the next person to comprehend, and yeah, and I'm sorry that you have to go through that, I'm really sorry that you have to be dealing with this. You have to be carrying this kind of load that, like I'm saying, very few understand, right? Are you comfortable to continue talking?
Yeah, just that it only dawned to me now how tired I am.
Yeah.
And I don't know what's gonna take for this to stop. I don't know what. Also, the conversations are different. People have got their own opinions, and korokare ke ithalosa differently and all the time.
Yeah.
To people. Yeah. And I don't know if do I really have to explain myself or just act like I don't care.
From I think, the thing about adenomyosis is, I think that kind of, I don't know whether to say, shocks me and leaves me feeling completely defeated is, how it also just affects you mentally, right? It's not just from I'm struggling with this, therefore I'm struggling with my mental health, but like just how, especially during your periods, you are affected to a point of not even being able to function normally, right? I'm wondering, is this something that perhaps therapy, counseling can help with? Do you need to see a psychologist? Do you need to see a psychiatrist? Is there any kind of medication that can manage that? Because I get it for granted. Gongwe ga ka hiwa dipidisi, o tla se ke ya wa tshwara, it won't get to that. If you go for counseling, it won't get to that, right? Also from a lack of understanding what is actually going on. So are you getting any kind of, psychological support to carry you through this beyond just therapy? Because I think we can talk about therapy, but to manage the condition itself, is there any kind of assistance that is even, possible?
No, I don't know because I haven't really thought about it to that extent that maybe I need someone to help me to deal with this, whether I'm on my periods or not. Even though right now I'm doing therapy, but it's just for other reasons. I just didn't think, or I just don't think that there's need for me to go and seek help on how this is affecting me.
Yeah.
Because also I don't even know how.
Yeah.
I will begin. How to begin and what am I gonna say about it? Yeah.
So from a spiritual perspective, Fifi, are you, because normally these kind of challenges either strengthen your relationship with God or can affect your relationship with God, right?
Yeah.
Or you go through seasons where at some point, okay, it kind of makes sense. Okay, thank you, God, for carrying me through it. And sometimes you go through seasons where you're like, but God, why, man? Like, you know what I mean? What has that been like for you? What is your relationship with God? Like, is there a relationship with God? Are you able to find solace in God? So spirituality, just holistically, what has that been like in this journey?
It's like I'm dealing with this spiritually more than I am dealing it with or should I say in the medical part. Yeah. I don't ask God much about it. But I always tell him how I feel. And I never want to maybe find myself in a position where I ask, why did it have to be me?
Yeah.
Why did it have to choose me? Because I don't have anyone in my family who has experienced debilitating pain because of period pains, whether it's there isn't any kind of definition. Would say they're dealing with adenomyosis or endometriosis. Yeah, I only had my little cousins with cysts, but then eventually she said they disappeared. But it didn't really affect. I can't have a conversation with her because it's a different. I don't know if it's a different level. Yeah. So I talk to God a lot about it because I feel He is the only one who can heal me through. Yeah. And He has also provided help through doctors, also through maybe understanding, and maybe also when it comes to food, there are spiritual foods. Yeah. Now I'm gravitating towards that. Clean eating. Yeah.
Does it help? Clean eating particularly?
The pain doesn't stop. The pain is always there. But I've seen a lot of things being managed. My body feels lighter than it usually is. I realized that, okay, there are months where my belly would be just somewhat not too big. Yeah. And it does help. It does
You
help.
mentioned earlier red meat. I don't know whether this was already, during our conversation or prior, but you mentioned something about, for some reason it seems like getting off red meat como particularly kind of helps. Would you like to elaborate a little bit on that?
No, just red meat.
Red meat holistically.
Yeah.
Okay.
Moreover, with the Daniel diet. Yeah. The Daniel fasting diet, I think it's literally what I'm supposed to live by. Yeah. I don't know how it's connected with the inner self way, because even doctors, they get shocked. Okay, nyame, how jinama because of this. I didn't know that meat could play a role. Yeah, when it comes to managing such chronic illnesses.
So this is a very sensitive aspect of, this whole situation and condition, right? And I'm not too sure whether, this has been an experience you've had, but just knowing about endometriosis and adenomyosis, I know that in our case, in, the case of endometriosis, 50% of people living with endometriosis end up experiencing infertility. I'm going to give an example with, Gabrielle Uni, and she's done quite a bit of work creating awareness about adenomyosis and just talking about how she personally was affected by, her fertility was affected by adenomyosis, talking about undergoing numerous IVF cycles, to a point where she ended up, going for surrogacy, right? She has a wonderful daughter. So when you see cases like that, right?
Yeah.
And you have a similar condition, what does that do to you? Are you able to sort of separate yourself from that and say, that's her experience, Because I know a lot of people who know, because I've created awareness on, endometriosis and also managed and mentioned the fact that it had affected my fertility as well, right? Struggled, with infertility as a result. I know a lot of people that's how I diagnose you with endometriosis because that's how I would if you get what I'm saying. And I realized just how much trauma I've caused, right? So much that I try by all means to also say, guys, but there are interventions. Not everyone with endometriosis, will deal with infertility.
Yeah.
And even should you deal with infertility, it's not all doom and gloom. There's something called fertility treatment. There are options. So that is a conversation that I try to have these days.
Yeah.
But I'm just wondering, knowing the reality of how far it can get, right? Is this something that affects you? Hearing about, what happens or seeing other cases around you, how has that been for you?
I try by all means to be very positive. I read, I listen to other people's experiences, and I feel like we are both gonna have different experiences.
Yeah.
It might not be my case, and it could be someone else's, and I don't think I'd be denied to have children. I haven't tried, but there was a time I did check, and my fertility is just fine. Yeah. So it's just that maybe chances are that there would be a struggle.
Yeah.
It may take longer than it is anticipated. Yeah. And when I also get to experience through other people globally, there's most adenomyosis, people living with adenomyosis, they have kids, they have children. It's just that pregnancy doesn't stop the pain.
Yeah.
It doesn't stop.
You continue to be challenged.
You continue to be challenged. Similarly, before you had kids.
Yeah.
And the last option is always to remove your uterus. And most of the time, that's what people do. They rush to have children and then they just remove the uterus.
Just so at least they get a bit of relief.
True. Yeah.
Now, the thought of having kids, right? If that's a dream that you have, which I kind of get like that, it's something that you may want to, consider at some point. Knowing that you have this condition and just how disruptive it is of your life, or how it disrupts your life, right?
Yeah.
Is it something that worries you, when you imagine the role that you'll be playing as a mother, as a guardian, as a, protector, as somebody who has to really be functional, to raise a family? Is it something that you ever imagine and that kind of like bothers you when you imagine yourself and your struggles versus also then having to, or is it something that like you've never thought about?
No, I've actually thought about it. Even just prior being pregnant, I feel like the way I'm exhausted right now, it's a journey that I have to be ready for.
Yeah.
Because it means frequent visits to the doctor and because even now I'm just dealing with a lot of things. When I decide to give myself time, or where I just be in a period, in a season where I feel like, okay, maybe I don't feel okay, let me just go to the doctor. Something is always diagnosed, One moment you are told you're dealing with this, the other moment it's that.
Something new.
Yes,
Yeah.
and also ulcers as well does trigger ulcers. Yeah. Atrobuda and gastrosis, something like that. Yeah, I went on a season where now I was dealing with ulcers. Yeah, so how hairy. And now thinking of motherhood, I fear maybe the first few years of when I welcome that being, because maybe the exhaustion may be too much. And I don't know. Not that I don't trust people around me. It's just that not everyone is a caregiver. And not most people are born with that. So you wonder I wonder the kind of burden that I would have to put on people around me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I completely get you. And thank you for, being that vulnerable, getting us into, that part of yourself. Because like I said, even at the beginning, you don't owe us your story. You don't owe us, all elements of your story. And even as I probe, I completely understand that, you don't owe us your vulnerability. So thank you for, sharing such. These are conversations we have with ourselves, that we hardly ever verbalize, right? So, thank you for sharing that. You mentioned earlier that, you talk to God for your healing, right? What does healing look like for you? When you say to God, I need you to heal me, are we talking about the mental, the emotional, the physical? What does healing look like for you?
I think it's everything. It's everything. It's waking up with no pain at all, because I feel I have normalized the fact that I'm always in pain. Yeah. I'm always in pain. If it's not something, it's another thing. And also mentally, to be able to wish and dream without worry, because I'm constantly worried. I inconvenience myself a lot. Yeah. And you can imagine, if I have that impact in my life, what about other people around me? Yeah.
That's deep. Now, Fifi, stories like yours we have people talking about things they've overcome. I used to this and now I'm fine. I went through this. Now here I am. I've emerged victorious. This is something you continue to live with every day.
Yeah.
This is, a journey you continue on. This is the story of your life, right?
Yes.
Why did you decide you wanted to create awareness? Because prior to even coming here, and this is why I reached out to you, I saw that you're also creating awareness on TikTok and just sharing your experience in creating, awareness on periods and, everything around that. Mm-hmm. What are you hoping to get from sharing your experience and just these conversations that you're having?
The reason why I started now raising awareness, it's the fact that period has always been deemed as a taboo. You are not supposed to talk about it at all. And I don't know if it's our generation or the generation coming. I think they are more challenged when it comes to their menstrual health other than our parents then. I don't know, maybe they did have such and also the fact that being a leader in my space, I get to have these young girls that I have as employees, and the first question that I always ask is, are you dealing with any kind of chronic illness? Because this has been a challenge for me. And it took a lot for me to be able to share and tell them that sometimes I won't be my best self. Yeah. And ga gona leave ya di period pain, and if you're going to have a brain fog and you're expected to perform,
that's it.
You might lose your job. Yeah. I remember there's a good friend of mine whom I relate to as a sister, an older sister. She had a very bad experience because she's also dealing with, she's challenged when it comes to her periods. Not yet diagnosed. She doesn't know exactly what it is. And she experiences a lot of brain fog as well. She had an interview for a job interview. And you can imagine somebody went and, something like endorsed or
yes. But they literally put in a good word for them and like endorsed and said, yes, this is your girl.
Yeah. I don't know that word. And you looked at her resume, they were happy. And the interview came and she was on her periods. She just froze there. And that person who was putting up a word for her, she's disappointed.
Of course. Singing your praises.
She went home and cried, and only after 2 weeks, she reached out to that person and said, this is what I'm dealing with. Yeah. And that woman had to explain to the management, maybe unilele mathata. Yeah. So those little things are reasons why I am raising awareness.
Yeah.
Also, especially in the corporate space where you just don't share. Or, you just don't share. There isn't support as well. There isn't enough support. And the only thing that I think the only challenge that a woman is supposed to have, maybe it's pregnancy.
Yeah.
And maternity.
That's it.
That's it. Mo gongwe ga ba expect gore she can't show up because of
And this is why I talk about things that aren't physically visible, right? Ha go tlhalogang gore at least the pregnancy ra gona go bona gore ngwana ke gore ya gola and then ngwana o tlile. But as long as it's not visible, how do you explain it? How are you even treated with any level of seriousness because it's like, ow, period. So but Fifi, I think let me take this moment to thank you for doing this, for destigmatizing periods and just period talk, right? Demystifying subjects like this, because this is something that a lot of people deal with in different forms. It comes in different shapes and sizes, but everyone struggling in that little corner.
Yeah.
You are isolated in your little space, thinking you're the only person going through that. And it's through people like you, who are able to candidly share their experience, that I feel the next person feels seen, the next person feels heard. So thank you for being a voice for the voiceless.
Thank
and
you.
I wish you all the best on your journey as well. I wish you healing, whatever that looks like for you.
Yeah.
I wish you a season where you can wake up with no pain, right? It's possible. And I would like to believe, Mudimona le wena and kithomo ya gago, it's heavy, but like they say, the will of God will not take you, where the grace of God will not sustain you.
True.
So
Amen.
I pray for continuous sustenance. May God carry you through this, because I know for a fact that it's not easy. Right. But thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you.
And all the best going forward.
Yes.
And, I look forward to the impact that will be created from this conversation as well. All the girls, the young ladies, the girls, the older ladies,
the
who will feel,
doctors.
the doctors, right? Who will get sensitized by your story. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, thank you very much for tuning in to this episode. And don't forget to share, to comment, like, and subscribe. And if you'd also like to share your story, you can DM the GaonaLive or GaonaLive Conversations pages on Facebook, or just email GaonaLiveConversations@gmail.com. Catch you on the next episode.